afternoon, everybody. Today I have with me such a lovely light of a person that I've known forever. I don't even want to say how long, but we've known each other forever. But this is Samantha Harris, who you would know probably most from hosting Dancing with the Stars, although you've done a million things since then. I feel like I see you all the time, everywhere. She's definitely been a correspondent, and she's a huge force in the wellness space and the health space. So I'm so excited for you guys to hear a lot of what she has to say, because I'm transfixed by all of your content having to do with health and wellness 100%. So hi, Samantha, how are you?
Oh my gosh, Thea, really fun to see you after all these years.
It's so fun to catch up with you. It's been forever. Samantha and I met a zillion years ago when we were co-receptionists at a huge management firm called 3 Arts. And literally, I think I was working half days or half weeks. I don't even know. It was like 5 hours. And we were answering the phones for this big company. And that's how I met you.
And it's so fun. And I was there for 6 years. I ended up moving from the reception desk to the client accounting where I worked. I even got my first big network show as a television host. I was hosting a show for Fox called The Next Joe Millionaire. And I had to go to Italy it was fabulous. I got to go to Italy for a month to shoot. And then I came right back to 3 Arts, back to the client accounting office,
No, you
back to
did.
work. Yeah, I did, but no, it was only for another few months because that's when I got my job at Extra, and I left.
Wait, so did you get that through 3 Arts, or you had your own?
No, I had my own agent, and
So you had to go and say like, "Hi, I need to take a break because I'm hosting a show."
yeah, what's really funny? I was just driving. So okay, people listening are like, why are they talking about stuff we don't know these people? But I'm going to tell Thea anyway. So was Mark Schulman there when you were there?
Yeah, yeah.
He was. Okay, so Mark Schulman, you guys, he is the talent manager for Mario Lopez and a whole Cameron Matheson and a whole bunch of other awesome hot guys. And we worked together when I was, like I said, working the client accounting. And then years later, I'd already done Dancing with the Stars and all of that. And then he became my manager for like a hot second. But then I realized I just worked better, I think, with women. So we stopped working together, stayed friends. But today I was driving to a podcast in Beverly Hills, and I was driving past the 3 Arts building, and there was Mark Schulman walking. He must have just gone to get his lunch, and he was walking back into the building. I thought, oh my God, that's too funny.
So he's still there, still
representing. Well, he's got great clients, so I'm sure it makes sense that he's there. And 3 Arts, you guys, produces like huge TV shows as well. They're a big company. It was a great way to start and just get my feet wet in LA. I was, fresh from Minnesota when I got the job temping at 3 Arts at the reception desk.
That's what I did too, through a temp agency. I always tell people, and they say, how do I get my foot in the door? I'm like, go to a temp agency. They'll put you with these amazing companies, and then it's all up to you to move around, because I was promoted right away too. So you can just meet people and they'll immediately see, oh, you're a bright girl, you should come do this in our company. But you always have to kind of get FaceTime in Hollywood with people before you get a real job, because they're not just going to hire you off a resume to you're not going to sit there and watch Jennifer Aniston come in, and like, if you're a nobody.
Right. Well, yeah. And when we were working there, they represented Jennifer Aniston when she was doing Friends, and Will and Grace, Deborah Messing, and all these, Chris Rock and Howie Mandel, and all these fun people would come into the office, and they'd asked me to be on the manager track and go work on one of the three partners' desks as his assistant, and then to move my way up. And I said, well, okay, that's fine. I would love to, but I'm also going to be acting. So I'm going to be auditioning. So can I leave for my auditions?
No.
Like, you need to make a choice right now. I was like, yeah, that's not my choice. I need to, so I pursued.
No, you 100% could not. Your life, it becomes your boss. I mean, the three partners, because I was a partner's assistant, that your life is there. You have no life outside of that desk.
Whose desk were you sitting on?
Irwin stuff. I was Nick's second assistant.
I was on Ron Rotenberg's. That's too funny.
Right. So I was Nick Friggle's second assistant. So he was the first assistant.
Nick became a big time manager himself,
And now he created our co-produced It's Always Sunny, which is like the longest running show ever on television. And if you had told us back then that was going to happen, I don't think either of us would be like, wow, of course.
Yeah, no. And he was one of my good, like, out of the office buddies. He and this Sarah Lum. Remember Sarah? She was
Yeah,
on.
of
She was
course. Sarah
on
and I were
Daniel
close.
Rotenberg's. I mean Danielle Rappaport's desk. Anyway, we're talking names that are like it's like when you go to someone's reunion, you're like, I don't know who these people are. Why are you talking?
Let
about
me tell you something. People that watch this podcast are used to it. All I do on here is name drop, and then they have to Google it. You'll find out who these people are that we're talking about. But anyway, so cut to, you did your shows, and then what have you been up to?
So I really worked hard. I went to, first of all, I went to journalism school at Northwestern
Right.
University. So that was my background. And I interned at Entertainment Tonight. So flash forward, like I said, I did this Joe Millionaire show that we shot in Italy. I then got my job as an anchor and correspondent at Extra, then at E! News, and then eventually worked my way to the anchor desk at Entertainment Tonight. And I anchored the weekend show for a lot of years. I filled in for Mary Hart for many years. And then she left and Nancy O'Dell came over and I filled in for Nancy and still anchored the weekend show, which was just, it was so much fun. I got to travel and interview amazing people. And in the midst of all that, still while I was at E! News, Dancing with the Stars came in its second season. They were looking for a new host. Basically, I was covering the first season. So the first season of Dancing with the Stars was a summer 6-episode run. ABC did not know if this show was going to work. They did a trial run, and it, as we all know now, it was
a huge hit. But you never know when you're producing something like that how it's going to go.
Right, and when I feel so lucky that when I was on it, we still to this day, American Idol was the #1 most watched ongoing TV show at that time, and Dancing with the Stars was #2. We had 20 to 30 million viewers a week. It was really exciting. But the first season was still like, okay, is this show going to go? Is it going to do well? And so I was interviewing the celebrities in that first season for E! News. After the show, the press line would come and all the celebrities would do their interviews to promote the show. And I was there covering it. And I called my agent afterwards and I was like, wow, this is like a dream show for me. I grew up in a family that loved to perform, loved musical theater. We sang around the piano, we sang show tunes in the car. And my mom was a dancer and her sisters were dancers. And my sister was a dancer. I danced. I wasn't a dancer.
I dabble in dance, but
there's a distinction between if you dance or you are a dancer. But I loved that world of performance. So when I covered this show as a reporter, interviewing the celebrity contestants, I was just blown away by the theatricality, the costumes, the movement. I thought it was the most fun thing I'd ever come across. So I called my agent and I said, look, I don't know if this show's ever going to have a second season, but if it does, I would love for you to pitch me. And I was just this little E! News reporter, and fill an anchor there. I wasn't, I was still at the beginning of my career. I'm like, but I would really love to be on the show as, a dancer and be one of the celebrity, thinking like I could be a celebrity dancer. I kidded myself, but I was never afraid to go after something.
Right.
Anyway, long story short, I get a call a few weeks later. I'm sitting at my desk. The Dancing 6-episode season has ended, and they had gotten the green light for season 2. And I'm at my desk at E! News. My agent calls and says, Samantha, I just wanted to let you know you're on a short list for Dancing with the Stars. And I was like, oh, that is the most amazing thing. Whoa. I can't do it. How can I, if I do the show, I want to be at rehearsal every day. I want to be I'm in it to win it. I want to win.
Right.
And I saw how hard the dancers work just watching as a reporter. And I said to her, I'm like, I don't think there's a way that with my E! News schedule, which is a full-time job, that I could also do the show. And she paused. She said, wait, oh, Samantha, I'm so sorry. I mean, you're on a short list to be the host.
That is so funny. That's hilarious. And you manifested it by even
better than I could have manifested it. I was not one of those, I'm a Minnesota girl. I would have never been like, look, I want to be the host. Kick off that other lady. I want her job. That was not me. I didn't know that, unfortunately, and I say unfortunately because I've also been in that position. Unfortunately, they didn't renew the first season co-host's job, and they were looking for a different host for Tom Bergeron. So to be on that short list was incredibly exciting. And then I didn't hear anything again. And then all of a sudden, a few weeks after that, I get a call. I was thankfully not on location. I was at the E-News offices, which just so happened to be a 10-minute ride down the street from CBS television studios. So even though it was an ABC show, CBS television studios has these huge sound stages that can, and satellite dishes that can go live. So American Idol, So You Think
So a
You Can
lot of
Dance,
people film there, right?
Dancing with the Stars. We all didn't matter what network we were on. We shot at this studio. It happened to be down the street. And so my agent called again out of the blue. I had no hair and makeup because I wasn't shooting that day. So I was just in my, jeans and t-shirt and
right. Looking terrible, Samantha. If you ever look terrible one day in your life, okay.
Well, okay, thank you.
No glam, though, no glam.
I beg to disagree, but thank you. So she called, she's like, hey, Samantha, listen, I just got a call from the producers of Dancing with the Stars. They want to see you do a screen test with Tom Bergeron. I was like, that's awesome. Okay, cool. When? She's like, can you be there in 2 hours in full glam and a gown?
Oh my gosh.
And I was like,
you're like, in this traffic? Are you crazy?
No, I'm not even thinking that. I'm thinking, can I be there in full glam and a gown? How can I do full glam like that in a gown? No, wait a second. I'm at work. I've got a hair and makeup team downstairs, and I cover all the award shows live.
So there's a closet.
So I got a closet of a couple of gowns. So I walk downstairs, I knock on the hair and makeup door. I'm like, I know you guys are kind of not supposed to get me ready today, but could you kind of get me ready? I got ready, and 2 hours later, I'm standing on the set with Tom Bergeron doing a screen test.
It's literally a Cinderella story. It literally is like, you're like just sitting at your little desk, your little correspondent job, and then the fairy godmother's like whisks you to the ball.
Complete, like, I still probably had some, coal from the fireplace on my nose, It was really a dream moment. And it was interesting because the negotiation for my contract is what took the longest, because it wasn't really even about me trying to get a better deal. It was trying to get the side contract of the E Network to allow me the flexibility, because they owned my time.
Right.
So thank goodness, as we know now, it worked out, and I was able to host the show for 8 seasons, and it was an unbelievable experience.
I went to a taping when I was there last year because Phaedra Parks is on it, and I'm good friends with her publicist. So I sat right up front, and the electricity in that studio, it's so hard to describe, because on TV it just looks, I don't know, so sanitized and kind of like vast, but it's a small area, and you really are so close to the dancers. And it does take you back to your musical theater days, like a stage type situation. It really is like you're in a black box theater. I can't describe it, but there's a line to go. You can go in the morning and wait for tickets, but right, Samantha, it's so much energy in that stage.
There's something about live TV,
right,
and that energy that it brings, on top of the fact that you have the performance element, and you've got the makeup and the costumes and the theatricality. One thing that I really loved, besides it was super fun to get as glammed as I got to get every episode, but one thing that I loved were so back when I was doing it, we had 2 seasons a year and 2 live shows a week. I mean, you can't ask in television for a better schedule or a better job. It was amazing. And so what I love, though, is on our second live show of the week so we had the performance live show and the results live show.
Right.
And the results live show brought in one major vocal performer, musician, or act.
Like a special guest act, right.
Performer. And the dancers would dance while this, big star was singing. So for me, I just loved being able to so backstory, I grew up in Minneapolis, as you know, but I grew up where my dad produced all the rock concerts. So I grew up backstage at rock concerts, meeting, I think that was probably why I went into entertainment news and interviewing celebrities, because I would fangirl every so often, like Hugh Jackman, I'm going to be, weak in the knees. But most of the time, like I was never like, oh, I'm so impressed that
it didn't phase you because you've already been around these kind of like famous people, right?
It was more, I was excited about talking to them about the work, about their performance, their process. They're not like, ooh, and I'm not going to pretend like I didn't like being able to interview celebrities, but it wasn't so, I just didn't get all nervous and whatever, because I grew up with it backstage at these rock concerts. So flash forward again to Dancing with the Stars, the results days, it was almost like I was back when I was a kid and watching the bands do sound check, and I would come in and I remember, seeing just like people like that were iconic. Like when I remember specifically seeing Aretha Franklin being able just doing her sound check, and she wasn't in hair and makeup yet, and that's the stuff that people didn't get to see. That's what I loved. Or backstage, we would always rehearse an entire show before we went live and do the whole show again. And so I would be backstage with, I would start the show and end the performance show with Tom on the main floor, but then I would be in the backstage position interviewing the celebrities right after their dance. And I just loved the in-between moments, right? It was the commercial breaks when we were live, or those chill moments, because it wasn't the pressure of live performance, when we could just talk and hang out as people. And that was really fun.
Right. And there's something about someone being a musician, a rock star, that type of talent that not that actors aren't talented, but I agree that there's like another level of really like of fandom when it comes to those, like Aretha Franklin, as opposed to, Hugh Jackman. I don't know. For me, I would
get excited about, but hey, Hugh can do no wrong, because he can be Wolverine and a song and dance tap man.
That's true. They're right. Bad example. He's a musical theater aficionado. You're right. Right.
Like if you did not see him in Les Mis the movie, you're missing out. So.
No, you are. So it's so funny. So you had 8 seasons of that, although it is what you're most well known for, but you've had such a life after that show. And this is what I'm kind of obsessed with, because I just feel like your transformation and what you've become today with your book and with you do so much right now. So I want you to talk about that, because I have so many followers on Instagram that are now obsessed with everything you do, because you're so well informed when it comes to health and wellness and what we should be putting in our bodies and on our bodies. And I know your journey has taken you there, which is unfortunate, but it's the way you blossomed out of this is so amazing. So that began when?
Right. So I was blindsided by a breast cancer diagnosis at 40, and our daughters were 3 and 6 at the time. And I thought I was healthy. I mean, I was on the cover of different fitness magazines, and people would ask me what I do to work out and stay in shape. And I thought I was eating healthfully. I was exercising all the time. I didn't realize that I needed that wake-up call. I didn't realize that what I was doing and how I was leading my quote healthy life was really, it may have been healthier than, the person who's just eating the standard American diet and not moving their bodies. But at the same time, it wasn't really healthy. I, grew up in the diet culture of fat-free and low-fat, thinking that was healthy. I grew up in Minnesota, eating every part of the cow. And so when I moved to LA, I kind of lost a taste for red meat, but I would make sure that every meal had animal protein.
Right, protein. When you thought that was just doing the right thing, you were like, okay, I'm not going to just carb load. I'm going to eat protein. But you're right. There's healthy, and then there's when you really are informed and you really get into the research of it, that some of the stuff that people think is healthy is not healthy at all. It's scary.
What I realized with the breast cancer diagnosis is, and I dove into research, I'm a national ambassador for the nonprofit Susan G. Komen, which is the largest breast cancer nonprofit. And I learned that 1 in 8 women are diagnosed with invasive breast cancer over the course of their lifetime. And that age is getting younger and younger.
Right.
You see the old lady disease, it's now women in their 20s and 30s even.
Right.
And so that was sort of like, what is that about? And when
why? Yeah. Why is it getting younger? That's bizarre. So this is not just coming out of nowhere. This is something that we're doing.
Well, and why are 1 in 8 women getting it at some point? And I learned also the shocking fact that only 5 to 10% of breast cancer is actually genetic, despite the fact that I lost my dad to colon cancer, because there's a breast colon connection genetically.
Right.
His mom was a breast cancer survivor, but thrived to 65 without any other instances after her diagnosis. And so then I dove into the research as a journalist to figure out what's going on. And I learned it's what we're putting in, on, and around our body that leads to these different unfortunate health outcomes, not just different types of cancer, but also heart disease, type 2 diabetes, neurodegenerative disorders, so Alzheimer's and dementia. And what can we do? What can we do to mitigate that? What can we do to reduce that? So I started to look at that it's sort of the assessing. Okay, I was about 90% toxic when it came to my makeup, skincare.
Wow.
Supplies were probably 100% toxic. My food was probably 60% toxic. My ability to deal with stress and high cortisol levels was probably 100% toxic because I had no tools for that. Didn't even know I needed to deal with that. My sleep was probably, a little bit toxic because I wasn't really paying attention. I was burning the candle at both ends. I was trying to
Yeah, you were working so hard. Right, right. Working, and you're a mom, you have little kids, so you're not resting.
No, because you are the lowest on the totem pole for
Right.
yourself, right? You put everyone, especially as a woman, as a mom, as a career woman, we put everybody else's needs first. My one negotiable was always exercise, but I would fit it in wherever I could. If I was,
Right.
shooting on the set of ET, I always knew every day I at least had 1 hour where we were feeding to the satellite. That meant I could run the stairs in the parking lot or do yoga in my dressing room and get something in. But I made it work. But I was also approaching exercise in a way that wasn't healthy. It was too much stress on my body. I mean, even when I think about the days I would do two a days, I would do like a cardio in the morning and a yoga in the evening.
So you were putting your body through too much when you're thinking that you're making yourself healthier. You're thinking the more exercise, the better. The more healthy I'll be, the more lean I'll be. And it's
Right.
actually, you're right. Like it's actually a reverse of that.
And you have the pressure of television, right? I mean, here I was standing next to these incredibly toned dancers. The pro dancers had, bodies that wouldn't stop, and
Right.
they were beautiful to look at. And I wanted to also, have that next to them. And I was on that path as it was, but I wanted to double down on that and lean into it even more. Um, so then, so then there was this cancer diagnosis and this aha moment, and it was so overwhelming though trying to make the changes that sometimes it was paralyzing. And there's also so much confusion through social media of do this, no, do that, do this, eat that, don't eat that.
It's it's way too much. It's way too much. It's like if you want to do everything right, you have to first of all take that pressure off to do everything right, right? Like you have to just tackle one thing at a time. Nobody's going to change everything all at once. I mean, this is like a whole process that you've been going through now.
It is. And so, when I wrote my Your Healthiest Healthy book, it was sort of to be a foundation of saying, look, if you want to be vegan or you want to be keto, which is by the way not a healthy diet, keto, or you want to be a carnivore or Mediterranean, a plant-based whole foods foundation is the way to go. And here's how to make that accessible to you. When it comes to exercise, you're struggling, you haven't exercised since fifth grade PE class. Okay, here are some small steps to lead to great changes and changing your habits in a way that is slow, methodical, but with consistency. But it wasn't until I had a cancer recurrence in 2024, now at age 50, that basically made me double down, but also approach things a little bit differently.
Hmm.
First of all, the recurrence, for those who've had a mastectomy as I did, it's only a 5% chance of local recurrence. My tumor that I found, because I found them both times, was very, very tiny, and it was in the exact same location as my initial tumor. And
After a mastectomy.
yes, after a mastectomy.
Wow.
And after 7.5 years of a hormone blocker, endocrine therapy, it came back. But I do believe, because it took 10 years to grow, but it still was so small and so slow growing and not aggressive, that the lifestyle changes that I had made and those new habits that now are part of my daily life over the 10 years leading up to it, I truly believe were the things that made it not metastasize, kept it slow, kept it small. So doubling down, I sort of started to kind of sit back, and I now follow a methodology that I call 10% toxic. So to get to your healthiest healthy life, we need to be 10% toxic.
So you allow some toxicity, is that what you're saying, as opposed to striving for zero?
Because what I learned in the process of being so overwhelmed, that I
Right.
was trying so hard to make sure everything was toxin free 100%, 100% of the time.
I mean, of course you're going to do that. You're thinking that you're scared. You don't want anything bad in your body. I get that.
And the fear fueled that. But if
Right.
you are trying for 100% perfection 100% of the time, you will 100% fail.
Right.
And so what I realized is it's okay to be 10% toxic. And it starts with assessment. where am I? So I already kind of broke down what areas pre-cancer I was and what percentage I was toxic. And then how can I start moving in a way, in a slow, accessible, not overwhelming, not suffocating way towards reducing the toxins. So it's reduction, not restriction, to get
Right.
closer and closer and closer to being just 10% toxic, but still allowing myself the wiggle room so that I can have that joy in life. I can grab those french fries when I want it or the ice cream with the kids. I can color my hair in the salon if I need to, because we each need to decide in what ways we want to be 10% toxic.
Right. What's your priority? What brings the most happiness and joy, which is important too, feeling good
Right.
about yourself.
Yes. And without the guilt, right? So if
Right.
I know it's okay to be 10% toxic and live that 10% toxic methodology kind of philosophy, then I know that I'm not going to be berating myself left and right when I know there's no amount of alcohol that is safe for breast cancer or at least 7 other cancers, including colon and esophageal. But if I had decide to have a margarita or 1 glass of wine, I cannot beat myself up about it and be okay with it because it was just
Right.
10% toxic. 90% of the time, guess what? I'm doing fine. And there might be some days I'm 80/20, and that's okay too.
I mean, it's great too, because you obviously are in a different like galaxy in terms of discipline, self-discipline. I mean, for obvious reasons, for practical reasons, you have to be. You're a mom and you had cancer, so you have to be vigilant. But for the average person, it's a lot to strive for, because we don't have those tools that you have. Or I mean, not everyone lives in Los Angeles where you can get out on these beautiful hikes every day and these gorgeous. So it's good to have this kind of benchmark of, listen, it's okay if you don't do this every single day, or if you have this kind of diet, but to strive towards it and to give everyone a little goal of just, being, allowing yourself some things, but eliminating some really dangerous toxins that I feel like, what's great about your book too, I feel like people just don't know about. I don't think that they haven't done the extensive research that you have. We're putting stuff on and in our bodies and we have no idea what it's doing to us. I mean, a lot of people, even though there's stuff everywhere on the internet, like you said, it's overwhelming. So the average person, it's like, if you want to get to your healthiest, which is specific to everybody. I mean, who knows where someone's living and what they're doing, how many kids they have, and what autoimmune diseases you have or whatever. So I think it's great to tailor it to each person. And people can sign up, right? And you'll coach people through this. Do you do like private coaching, or you just do wellness weekends? How do you personally?
So first of all, I went back to school to become a certified health coach, right? It was a year-long program. It was amazing. I'm always about educating myself and making sure that I have the credibility. So I'm not just, oh, she was that TV host who's now talking about wellness. Why should I listen to her?
Right.
I've been through it. I know I've been where you've been. I've made I've had those setbacks, and I've come up with processes to make it successful and achievable for anybody. And
Right.
you mentioned something that I want to make sure I highlight, which is, no, not everybody is obviously in Los Angeles who's listening to you, but guess what? I don't care where you live. I don't care what you have immediately accessible or not. There is a way to find different tools to make those percentages in your favor as you get to be closer and closer to just being 10% toxic.
Right.
So to answer your question, so I after I graduated from my year-long health coaching program, I did have private clients, which I'm not doing anymore because
Okay.
I wanted to be able to use the time to reach more people. So
Right.
through my Your Healthiest Healthy retreats, which are in person. So I have one in Utah every year that is magical, but it's a very small, intimate group. We hike. It's all levels of exercise and fitness classes and coaching from me, both one-on-one and as a group. This year in October, I'm taking a group for one of the days. It's a 4-day, 3-night. One of the days we're going to Zion National Park.
Oh my gosh, so amazing.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah.
there you
And
are.
for
You're
those who don't
feeling.
want to go to Zion, we have a few ladies who are going to actually stay at the resort that day, do the hikes and the other classes at the resort, and then I have something else special for them that day that they'll have, so they still get that one-on-one with me. But also just through my Instagram and my Facebook, which is Samantha Harris TV, like television, Samantha Harris TV, I give a lot of resources, a lot of guidance, and I put resources together that are free. So, for instance, clean beauty is really important. We have
Right.
skin is our biggest organ. So what we're putting on our body through our makeup, our skin care, our hair care products to be able to start to whittle away the things that are not serving us and add in the products that are healthier and safer for us and for our kids. I did a show that we shot 65 episodes of a game show in 3 weeks. It was
Oh my
breakneck speed, 12-hour days, but you needed bulletproof hair and makeup that lasted under hot light. So this was after cancer. This was just recently. So I had my hair and makeup girls who are good friends of mine, and we've worked together forever. And I said, hey, we've got a budget from the production company and we've got a show, which means we have ways to have tons of brands send us stuff and
Right.
to purchase. Here's the barometer of what it has to be in terms of cleanliness.
Right. You can't just go there and use their products. No.
It has to be really toxin-free beauty. So they brought in a ton of products. So I vetted so many different products with so many different brands. So I have anyone who's listening reaches out to me, and Thea, I can send this to you as well, who sends me the words clean beauty on my private messages on Facebook or DM on Instagram, clean beauty, I will send you my clean beauty guide. I love smoothies to get my nutrient dense plant-based foods in. And a great way to do that is with a smoothie. So I put together a 50-page recipe guide that's smoothies and more. So smoothie bowls, acai bowls, protein energy balls, all this fun stuff. And so if you send me the DM that says protein, I'll send you that. And then if you want to hear about the retreats and stuff, I have a couple more spots. Just DM me retreats and I'll.
Right. Her Instagram alone, just your Instagram stories, like I'll just be scrolling and I will learn something every single time. I mean, I'm not obviously up to speed on any of this stuff, but I have multiple sclerosis, so I should be. And I am very conscious about what I put in and on my body. I am. But I still learn every single time I go by your stories. You're talking about some different way that you've learned. I feel like we're learning with you because I feel like you've learned through this journey so much. So I feel like we can all take some of the information that you have and get to our healthiest, selves somehow. I would love to. Who wouldn't want to be healthy? And as you know, as a mom, you have to be healthy for your kids, which is the most important thing. Because I'm
sorry that you've been on the MS journey. I know that is not an easy journey to be on. How is your health?
No, it's great. And I will tell you a huge part of my MS journey is diet. Changing my diet was life changing. I tell everybody who talks to me because it's all about inflammation. I have lesions and around the lesion gets inflamed. And that's what causes you to have mobility issues and all that stuff. It all comes from the inflammation. And as you know, food is 100% tied to inflammation. What you put in your body will exacerbate your inflammation. And I had no idea starting the journey at all. And it actually took me a lot of years to even embrace it because you're just in this medicine world. I mean, I'm giving myself shots every week of interferon and you have the side effects. And so you're kind of in this medicine cycle and you kind of forget that the food, and I will tell you that food has done changing my diet has done more for me than any medicine, like 100%. It gives me energy if I eat better. So I'm very into that. I don't use a lot of makeup or products. So, but I do look at your like shampoo suggestions and things like that because I'm conscious of it. Because as you said, I'm not 100% at all toxin free, but I am so conscious of it. I've learned so much through you. And I've seen, I watch this documentary called Stink. Have you seen it?
I haven't seen that.
You have to look this up. It's about the makeup industry and how they put fragrance and everything, and what's in that fragrance is like killing people, and you don't know because there's a loophole with the FDA, whatever, with the guiding forces, that if you just put the word fragrance, with your list of ingredients, and then you write fragrance in there, that can be anything. And it's toxins. It is a lot of time. I mean, this is in pajamas, anything that has a scent. So that I became so obsessed with.
Yeah. And I think, when people are listening, they might be saying, Samantha, this is too much. This is overwhelming. I try to really cut through the confusion, make things accessible and not overwhelming. So what you bring up about fragrance is really important to know because some small changes to make, right? So I said before, like start with your BB cream, your foundation, your skincare regimen. So maybe just your night cream, and then add in changing up your day cream. But fragrance is a proprietary resource. And so a brand will want to make sure that they basically two things: hide how all the different chemicals
exactly,
and that could be natural too. All natural, and by the way, all natural isn't always safe, or all organic or paraben free doesn't necessarily mean it's free.
Right.
But even if something is, say, all natural, well, guess what? Even natural things, when you put them together, can kind of be stinky. So they add fragrance to mask the smell. the odor. And they also, then there's of course the allure of having something smell a certain way, but there are really great brands that have toxin free fragrance that they
That
are
smell wonderful with real natural.
like you said, organic essential oils, but
Right.
they need to be transparent. They can't just have the catch-all phrase of fragrance
Exactly.
because maybe they're clean, but most likely. So there's something called a phthalate, and a phthalate is an endocrine disruptor. Endocrine
Oh,
disruptors mess with your hormones.
right. I
So
know all about that. That also really ties into cancer and hormones and cancer and all that. So that is something everyone needs to be vigilant about, women especially,
right,
the
and
hormone
so
disruptors.
so fragrances can have anywhere from 300 to 400 different chemical makeup that are ingredients in that one fragrance. Now you see it on the label just as fragrance, but it actually has 300 to 400 different things in it. And oftentimes it has phthalates in it. And so that's something that we really want to be careful of as well. So everything on my clean beauty list has been vetted to be free of anything that is harmful in any way, which I think is really important. Look, it the tide is changing in the United States, especially specifically when it comes to our food systems, right? We finally banned red dye 40,
Finally, right.
all of that. But the European Union and Japan and even Canada have banned tons, over 1,400 different chemicals. The US bans 13 for our personal care products. So we have a long way to go, but we as consumers can be proactive and take even better control. And I help people to do that.
Right. We can't leave it up to the government, and we have to do our own research. And if you don't have time to do your own research, Samantha will do your research for you.
Yeah,
And you can just DM her for her list and
yeah.
follow her on Instagram and join her wellness retreats. And then we can all be as informed as you and as healthy as you, because now you're cancer free, correct?
Yes, so I am on a functional path that is just kind of keeping anything that might be there, hopefully, at bay. But yeah, the cancer came out, and so my brain space, I'm cancer free.
I love it. I love it, Samantha. Well, thank you so much for coming. Now, your book is called what? Your
So
healthy.
the book is Your Healthiest Healthy. You can get it on Amazon or wherever books are sold. Some people love to reach out to me to get a signed copy, so you can always send me a DM and say, Samantha, I want your book, and I can go ahead and help you get that as well. But otherwise through Amazon as well.
Okay. Well, thank you so much. I'm so glad I got to catch up. You're just such a amazing, positive person, and I love following you, and I love watching your stories, because you really give me that sense of security and that sense of confidence. It just emanates from you, and I just can't wait for everybody else to start like going on the Samantha Harris journey, because I really do think that you are onto something with all of your research and with all of your just your general happiness. And you know this about you. This is why you're such a successful host, and you've done so many successful things, because since the day I met you. And you remember, by the way, your Wonder Woman costume for Halloween. That's what I'll always
Oh
remember
my
you from.
gosh, you're too funny. Oh my gosh. I love it. Well, I always kind of felt like with the long dark hair, I was like, I kind of feel like I
No,
look like
you
Wonder Woman. So that's an easy
you
costume.
were the perfect Wonder Woman. I will never forget it, because you actually were Wonder Woman. So that's how I know you. All right, Samantha, thank you so much. Everybody follow her, buy her book, and I will talk to you soon. Thank you, Samantha, so much for being here.
All right. Thanks for having me.
Okay, bye.